July of 2025 was the best month for superhero movies in a long while. Warner Bros. Released Superman, which kicks off its rebooted DC cinematic universe. 2 weeks after that, Marvel put out the Fantastic Four First Steps. Both movies got great notices, they both did well at the box office, well-ish, well enough, and they both represent opportunities for these beleaguered franchises to start again. And they both kind of needed a reboot. Marvel released Iron Man back in 2008 and went on to build the most successful cinematic franchise in the history of cinema and the history of franchises. Marvel movies have made over $30 billion at the box office alone, and that's not counting all the money they've made from merchandise, home video, Disney Plus, subscriptions, etc. For a while, it seemed like Marvel could do no wrong. And then Avengers Endgame came out in 2019, and we all loved it, and we all paid for it, and the studio didn't quite seem to know what to do with itself after that. Fans got underwhelming sequels, they got promising debuts that went nowhere, and they got a flood of Disney Plus TV shows of vastly varying quality. You know, part of the appeal of the MCU was always that it seemed like more than the sum of its parts. But with so much content out there to watch, movies and TV since Endgame, it began to feel less like the greatest story ever told and more like homework. Enthusiasm waned slowly after Endgame, and it hasn't really come back. Meanwhile, DC found itself playing catch-up. Man of Steel, with Henry Cavill playing Superman, came out in 2013, and it did really well. But Warner Brothers didn't just want a successful movie, they wanted their own MCU. They rushed to build it, and I think that's what doomed them in the end. You know, the MCU built up slowly, with lots of the main characters, Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, getting their own solo movies before they all came together in 2012's The Avengers. And that slow build-up made it feel like a huge event. DC sort of yanked its heroes together in Batman v Superman in 2016, and followed it up with Justice League the year later. And those movies aren't terrible, they have their virtues, but they go too big too fast. Justice League underperformed, executives got cold feet, and the DCEU never really cohered in the way they wanted it to. By the time The Flash and Blue Beetle came out in 2023, it was clear something needed to change. Now, the idea is that the new Superman movie is that change, but neither it nor Fantastic Four are on track to make the kind of insane billion-dollar hauls these movies made back in the 2010s. Honestly, I don't know if we'll ever get back to a point when superheroes ruled the box office, which is fine. Trends change all the time. That said, both Superman and Fantastic Four are doing well, despite what doomsayers are saying on X, the Everything app. A basic rule of thumb is that to make a profit, a movie needs to make back around 2 or 2.5 times its budget. Superman's already there, it's profitable, and Fantastic Four is on its way. And both these movies will get money from digital sales and rental stuff like that. They're doing decently, just not spectacularly. And decently might be the best that studios can hope for after so many casual fans have kind of wandered away from the superhero genre. Is there a reality where superhero movies are back on top? It won't be for a while, if ever, but I do think that with these two movies, it feels like Warner Bros. And Marvel have learned the right lessons. Neither Superman nor Fantastic Four feels like homework. Superman has a lot of characters in it, but the focus is very firmly on Superman himself. And he has a sunny disposition that the Henry Cavill version didn't have. David Cornsweet Superman is more approachable, friendlier, brighter, which makes it different. The new movie doesn't feel like a reboot for the sake of a reboot. It feels like a new take, or at least a new old take. And it's fun. I liked it. The dog helped. Meanwhile, Fantastic Four is set in the 60s. It's a prequel, which means Marvel doesn't have to follow up on Ant-Man 3 or Secret Invasion or any other stuff they made in the past 5 years. The movie also benefits from Disney's new quality over quantity approach. The CEO of the company, Bob Iger, who, by the way, used to be CEO, and then was replaced with an interim guy, and then came back when the interim guy didn't do a good job. Marvel has problems, they have for a while. Anyway, Bob Iger has pledged to put out fewer Marvel movies and TV shows per year, meaning that the team can focus on movies like Fantastic Four and make them as good as possible, without spreading themselves too thin to hit a quota. I think that paid off here. Both movies have great casting, likable characters, and a nice mix of action and drama. Which is better? The internet will figure that out. I'm more interested and encouraged by the fact that Marvel and DC both released big cornerstone movies last month, and that both are pretty good. The question is, will they stay pretty good? My name's Dan, and we're going to talk about that today on So when it comes to building your own cinematic universe, DC blew a promising start in the 2010s, and Marvel eventually chased its own success down a hole so dark and deep it may not ever be able to claw its way out. Warner Bros. And Marvel are both in rebuilding mode right now, which is why I'm not too flabbergasted or horrified by the new movies not making billions of dollars. Both studios are trying to build up to the point where they were back in the 2010s, when superhero movies were the biggest game in town. Is that possible? And what would a new era of great superhero movies look like? I mean, I don't know. I know that if we do get a new golden age of superhero movies, it won't look like the last one. Last time around, Marvel and DC were rivals, but really Marvel was way, way ahead of the game. The DCU was never a real contender, at least in terms of tickets sold. Marvel had them mathematically, objectively beat. Not a quality judgment, just saying Marvel sold a lot more tickets. That said, now DC seems like it's in the better position. Superman is tracking well ahead of Fantastic Four at the box office. I think mainly because folk are still sort of wary of the MCU after several straight years of hit or miss offerings. The DCU is brand new. James Gunn and Peter Safran are in charge over there, and the future they have mapped out looks intriguingly weird to me. There is a Supergirl movie on the way. There's a grounded Green Lantern show coming to HBO that kind of looks like superhero True Detective. There is a Clayface movie they are making. Clayface is a minor Batman villain and one of the last characters I'd ever expect to get their own solo movie. It could be a disaster, but if they're bothering to make it at all, I figure they must have confidence in it, and that has me intrigued. It got me curious, and curious is a good place to be right now. They want their fans curious. Marvel's playing it safer. They have Tom Holland coming back for Spider-Man Brand New Day, and they have Robert Downey Jr., of all people, coming back to play the bad guy in a couple new Avengers films. Those movies are both going to trade on nostalgia. Remember these people? You like these people? Come and see them again on a new thing. That's the kind of thing that propelled Deadpool and Wolverine to its billion-dollar payday, and I'm sure these movies are going to do well as well. The challenge for Marvel is getting folk interested in the new stuff, like Fantastic Four, the upcoming Wonder Man show. I think Marvel has some trust to win back from fans, but if the quality is there, and if it's there for long enough, I do think they can do it. They may have to scale down budgets for a bit, at least until they get the masses back on board. Marvel is no longer the money-printing machine it was, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they deal with that and learn to tell stories within their means. I think the best case scenario for superhero movies, and the only way they have a ghost of a hope of a shot of retaining the glory days of the 2010s, is if both Marvel and Warner Bros. Continue to put out consistently good movies for a while and start getting competitive with each other. I want them to put out one movie and then for the other one to respond in kind and try to top each other, try to go higher, think bigger. People love a good narrative. We loved Barbenheimer, that unlikely double bill back in 2023. We love an underdog story like Sinners from this year, where a movie that no one had really heard of and wasn't tied to any big IP became a huge hit. And I can see everyone loving a narrative where superhero movies had this giant peak, then they had a valley, and then they rise up back again. I can see people loving a narrative where Marvel and DC are fighting for the hearts and minds of fans. If the studios can keep up the momentum they started with Superman and Fantastic Four, if they prove those movies weren't flukes, it could woo back fans who have moved on. Give them something new to sink their teeth into. And if Marvel and DC really want to blow people's minds and get them excited beyond even the frenzy they felt for Infinity War and Endgame back in the day, I think the best option might be a big Marvel-DC crossover movie. You know, heroes fighting alongside heroes, villains teaming up with villains, that kind of thing. It might sound like a far-fetched pipe dream and an intellectual property nightmare, but it's happened before in comics, and when there's money to be made, those kind of lines can be crossed. Marvel and DC need to give fans something new if they want to keep them engaged and to win back people who have left and to win new converts, and that would definitely be new. But that's in the future. Right now, I'm just happy that Marvel and DC are making movies that are actually good enough to rival each other. The longer they do that, the better it is for everyone. or they panic because they didn't immediately make billions of dollars and they try to redo everything again. Either way, it'll be fun to watch.